This design does not come from the United States. It comes from a guy named Neil, and he emailed me about this design that he came up with a couple of months ago. And when I saw the pictures of it, I was truly intrigued. I was shocked that it was so darn original. I had not seen anything like it of the sort. Maybe you guys have, but I sure haven't. So finally, he kind of finished the design, sent me one, and I took a look at it and built it up. And I was really just, it's such a joy to look at somebody else's work that's so original and just kind of peer into his mind, because I've designed so many frames now. I just love peering into people's minds about how they chose to design the things that they did, because this is a genuinely original frame, and it has something very special about it because every component on here is structural. There's nothing here that's wasted. Every single bit here needs to be there for it to be able to perform the way it does. And immediately you might think, oh, everything looks really frail, but when you hold it in your hand and try to flex around, this thing is super duper ultra rigid, and it feels really durable. And it is durable if it gets hit on the corners of the arms or in the correct way. But if it gets hit in the wrong way, like one of these spars in the front or one of these plates break in the middle, then it kind of crumbles in on itself. So I'll talk about that more at the end, but let's quickly go over this design. So I'm going to flash up some pictures because it's not really easy for me to show you everything at night with these weird lights that I have out here. But basically, he came up with this concept of using these body clips, which is a super cool concept because it's really easy to get the bottom plate off, and this plate is still structural and it's doing something to maintain the structural integrity of the quad. Without this bottom plate, the thing kind of sort of falls apart. And the other thing that he's done, which is really not easy to do, is this is using a lot of carbon in carbon slotted parts, which getting the tolerances tight enough and appropriate to have it be nice and tight and secure is not easy with any manufacturer. It takes a lot of test runs to make sure it really does fit together. So you can see that it's got these vertical joints here, as well as these solid arms on top, as well as these crossbars on the front. So if you think about how the structure of this quad is built, it's not unlike the box frame structures, like the Carbix quads, where there's like 3 points of connection to each motor. You have like the actual arm, and then you have the vertical arms going the other ways. This one has also 3 points of connection to each motor. You have this kind of slanted arm, and you have the actual main arm, and then you have the spar going across. And this is really ingenious. It makes it, once you build the quad, you kind of understand how it works, and it's not difficult to maintain. It's actually really simple to replace the parts on it, but you do kind of sort of need to know how to replace the parts on it. And once you build it, you also notice that it's actually really easy to work on, because you can throw this bottom plate off in just an instant. I did lose one body clip in a crash, but it also took that crash well. Embarrassingly, when I first built this quad, I built it with this dinosaur HGLRC ESC, which is massive, and it's claiming, what is it, so 60 amp 6S on this ESC board, and I used the iFlight F7 dual gyro. Unfortunately, this iFlight F7 dual gyro is incredibly poorly laid out, and I still have no idea if it takes direct battery voltage or if it requires 5 volt. I don't know if there's any modern FC coming out these days that doesn't take full battery voltage at this point, but I don't think this one does, since I burnt out the flight controller, so I wasn't able to test it. Something really interesting about this one is that it's supposed to blend the two gyros together and give a combined signal to the actual processor, and it's doing that all on its own before it actually enters the processor, and I wish I could have tested that, but I can't. Also, these 30 by 30 boards, I have like a ton of them, but I won't use them because we are quickly rushing towards only 20 by 20 for 5-inch. So at this point moving forward, I could finally say that there's really no point in building a full 30 by 35-inch anymore. The 20 by 20 ESC boards that are coming out probably in a couple weeks are just as good. They're using the same FETs and the same everything. So stay tuned for that. But let's get back to this quad. So how does this thing fly? If you look at where the battery sits, this is a mid-mount quad. Mid-mount quad. The battery sits right in the middle, and it does have slots for the battery being mounted vertically or linearly or front to back, as well as toilet tank style sideways. And those two do impact performance a little bit. I'm not going to talk about this in this video, maybe in another video later. I prefer the front to back style only because it has a lower chance of getting hit by the props because you can run 2 battery straps. Now, there are a couple of flaws with this. It is a prototype. I have had to do something real weird to actually mount the motors, but I'll just omit that for now. The quad performs really nicely. Unfortunately, the biggest issue is that the camera sits behind all of this stuff, and so it kind of gets a lot of stuff in view because it's sitting behind this bar and these arms and underneath the props and underneath the battery, and that is really the primary issue with a quad setup like this. Muo FPV has his design, which is this kind of mid-mount, upside-down style build as well. He has the same issue where the camera just sits underneath the prop, so you just get a whole lot of prop in your face when you're flying. Some people have a problem with it, some people don't care. I personally love it, especially in the GoPro view. Maybe I'll cover that in another video. But anyways, I just wanted to show you guys this quad because I do appreciate these incredibly original designs. Really incredibly original designs. One other thing I want to touch on and point out is that what I'm running here is the Racerstar T-Motor F42 V2 1600 kV. This is a 2305 motor. I hate the fact that T-Motor uses these stupid F whatever numbering schemes and don't just tell you the actual motor size. I've been testing a bunch of 2305 motors lately, specifically to see if they perform differently than 2306, and they do. And the biggest reason why I'm not a huge fan of 23 size motors is because of that hump of power that you get down at the lower range. I am getting used to it, and we now do have a lot of props that are designed specifically for 23 size motors, so they do help tremendously with that hump of power down low, but it still happens. But moving forward, 2306, 23 size motors tend to work out better for 5-inch quads because there's more stuff that's being geared towards 23 size. And so 2305 only came into play when I was building lighter quads. And so this motor, unfortunately, is not a good motor. And of the 2305 motors, there's really only one that I like, and that's the Amox Eno 2305. It's probably the most powerful one. It's not really a light motor anymore, but it does perform absolutely stellar. This motor is not a very good motor. It's a $15 motor. There's no reason it's $15. It has a C-clip on the bottom. The metal is weak. The windings are ugly, and I don't think that matters, but the windings are ugly. I wouldn't recommend this motor at all. More to come about some other things, but I'm going to leave it at that for now. I just wanted to point out this particular design because I think it is so freaking original, and I love original designs. Take care. Floss your teeth. Bye-bye.